Hello and welcome. Today I'm sharing 10 things that I quit or altered or changed in order to simplify my life because at some point it was just a bit too overwhelming. When I started my simplification journey, the first thing that I needed to reduce is the amount of debit and credit cards that I've accumulated. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I definitely fell victim to the credit card points and the heist to get the free trips. And so essentially I kept opening a new credit card every 6 months just so that I could get the sign-on bonus, and I was just putting regular purchases on it, like groceries, gas, some utilities that were allowed to put on a credit card as opposed to debit card. And then I would get the bonus and I would basically pay them off, every month, just use it as a debit card. Eventually though, I had to create Excel spreadsheets to just babysit every card because every card has a due date of when you're supposed to make the payment as well as the reporting date to the credit bureaus. And at some point I was like, why do I have so many credit cards? Now, don't get me wrong, I did cash in on some of those bonuses and I did redeem them for several free trips and several free hotel stays. It was basically just this whole thrill of a find of a good deal. But at some point I realized that I don't like how certain cards are set up, or I don't like their app. And for some of them I was like, wait, why am I paying this annual service fee? So I went ahead and paid off the little balance that they carried at the time, and I canceled my American Express, Capital One, Citi. I'm trying to think, there was one airline card I had as well. And then I went through debit cards as well, and I was like, why am I having so many debit cards? I should really have maybe one or two. Now that I've downsized the amount of cards I have, it's much easier for sure. The second thing I simplified was my emails. When I was doing real estate, essentially as soon as I would get an email from the title company or any other agent, my initial response is to respond to it right away. I'm not playing any games, I'm just responding as I get them so that there's not any pile up of the emails. And just to be professional and responsible, because especially in real estate, time is money and you just cannot sometimes wait. As a result of my business, however, I've noticed that I was getting hundreds, if not thousands of emails, and the sheer notifications alone was overwhelming me so much. As soon as I would get up, there's already 15 notifications. So what I did is I created a separate email just for spam. Basically, any kind of ads, emails go to that email and I don't even check it. It's not attached or it's not enabled through my Gmail app. And then all the important emails go to a very specific email that I actually do check regularly, and if I do get an email, I respond right away as well. This has helped me so much because I went from hundreds of notifications to only maybe 5 to 7 per day. Same goes to other notifications from my phone. I just turn them off. Like, I keep the Uber app on my phone just in case, but I don't need a daily reminder that Uber exists. The next thing I did was I downsized and decluttered nearly 50% or probably even more of all of my possessions, and then organized every corner of my home. Even to create this little background for my videos, I literally had to search through my entire place to gather a few items to put them together because I don't have that much stuff, but I also don't like an empty wall. So sorry, there's not going to be any decluttering content from me because I've already pretty much decluttered everything and there's nothing left to declutter. But this has helped my mental health tremendously because once there was less clutter, there was so much less stress in my life and I was able to think so much clearer. Next thing my husband and I did, which I already talked about on this channel as well, is we moved from a big city, Las Vegas, to a small town, middle of nowhere. That one alone is obviously not everybody can do because it takes time, planning, and oftentimes jobs do not transfer. But I also knew even living in Las Vegas, even if I just moved areas, that would also make a difference. Because the location where you live determines so much. And for me now, living in a small place that's not as technologically advanced, where people are just living basic lives, is so refreshing. In combination of doing all of these things together, that was basically the recipe of successfully minimizing and simplifying life. The next thing I did is so tiny, but it made a world of a difference, was eating slowly without my phone. If you are a working professional, you know that taking a lunch break, you just feel guilty. So I feel like the past 10 years, I would just eat so quickly without even properly chewing, and I would always be watching something on my phone to kind of distract myself. And now just changing that one simple habit to just sit and enjoy the food and think about the food and not watch something on the screen, I actually couldn't believe how big of a difference it makes in a day, especially when I start the day like that with breakfast. The next thing I did is I purged mental clutter and I started practicing this thing of weekly planning that some people recommend, calling it brain dump, where basically you take a piece of paper and everything that bothers you at that moment, you divide it into category like house, projects, work, whatever categories you have, and you just write out everything in that category that either needs to be done or bothers you or something that's in your mind or in the back of your mind. mind, or maybe it's something that's not urgent right now, but will come at a later time. It is fairly easy to purge physical clutter. You just pick it up and throw it away. But with mental clutter, I've noticed just how much unnecessary stuff was occupying my mind. Have you ever sat down and kind of given it a little bit of a thought? What am I thinking throughout the whole day? What occupies my mind? What kind of thoughts come to my head? I did this exercise once where basically for a day, anytime I would have a thought, I would write it down. And I found out that I actually do have a lot of super random thoughts, but also it was eye-opening for me to see that I tried to keep so much in my head. Maybe running errands is something just we as women constantly think about. Oh, I gotta go visit this person. I gotta go buy this. I need to remember to put this on the list. And it's just like endless lists and lists and lists and lists. But I found out that doing the brain dump and just kind of mentally like releasing all that stuff from my head. Like, okay, if it's on a piece of paper, it's not gonna go anywhere. I'm not gonna forget it. Therefore, I can let it go from my mental clutter, so to speak. The next thing that I allowed myself to do, which I consider a luxury at the point after how I've been living previously, is letting myself be bored and do absolutely nothing. If you're type A personality and you always have to have your basically schedule planned out every single hour, every single 15-minute slot needs to be filled out, and there's no time to even like allow creativity or flow to happen, that's when I noticed a lot of burnout happened. And in my early 20s, I didn't even know how to handle burnout, so I just kept going and going and going until it kind of turned into other mental issues. But now, just like I schedule things to do, I also schedule things to do nothing. I can sit and look through the window, I can lay down without my phone. And at first that came with so much guilt because no, I have to be productive, I have to be doing something. But in reality, I was trying to find rest wrong. In the past, I thought that rest would be the change of activity. For example, if I'm reading the book and I'm tired, I'm gonna go do the dishes. If I'm tired doing the dishes, I'll go do something else. And I didn't realize just how important it was to genuinely just do nothing. Allow myself to do nothing and be okay with it and not feel guilty. Now, that takes time, but it is so worth it. The next thing I did was staying away from negative and toxic people in my life. Not that I had that many to begin with, but this is something that can completely drain your battery and leave you empty. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm always coming to the rescue when somebody needs help. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just constant negativity and gossiping and toxic behaviors. At some point, you do realize I just gotta let it go. And people who are decluttering sometimes realize they have to declutter certain friendships and relationships or acquaintances as well. It's just part of life. But ironically enough, as soon as I decided to let go of certain relationships, new people entered into my life who were completely opposite and who were exactly what I needed, that breath of fresh air. So sometimes in order for something new to enter into your life, you need to let go of something you previously have been maybe holding on to a bit too long. And one thing about me is if someone were to tell me their secret or something in private, it just stays with me. I don't go around talking to anybody about it. Mostly because I just never focus on talking about other people, especially in the negative way. But if somebody else starts gossiping, I'll probably clog that in right away and not be as open or vulnerable with them because they'll probably be talking about me behind my back too. The next thing I stopped doing is I quit rushing in the morning by preparing at night. Basically preparing everything the night before. Many of us have probably been in a situation where we hear the alarm, but then we allow ourselves to lay in the bed a little bit longer. And then eventually you realize you have to get up and then you're running a little bit late and maybe you're forgetting things. And it's just kind of a bad start to a day, especially when there's appointments or things to do in the morning. And I guess I severely underplayed how important mornings are in general. And there's so many amazing videos on YouTube that a lot of people put out of their peaceful morning routine and how it just sets the day. The last thing on this list that I did that was probably the most impactful thing for my mental health was deleting social media. Now, a lot of people do go as far as deleting their accounts, and I keep the account, but I actually delete just the app from my phone. Goodbye Facebook, goodbye Instagram. I don't know, there's something so embarrassing the past few years about posting on Instagram. Maybe it's because it doesn't quite connect you with the people you know. Because if you post something on your story, people would look at the story but not quite interact. But then again, if people are posting on their story, are you interacting with them? And for some reason, it's so much easier to feel happier for strangers who live miles away than your next door neighbor. Which is why when I started this YouTube channel, I did not tell a single person about it. I don't care if anybody knows about this YouTube channel. But because I've been posting, or I'm trying to post consistently, I have found a community of such amazing people who are also striving to live minimalistically, trying to tune into underconsumption, anti-consumption, frugal living, simple living. All of those things are interconnected. And it's really great to be able to learn from other people. So yeah, I think social media is definitely changing a lot, and it will be changing in the next few years. And I did notice that people who I know, they just post less and less and show up on social media less and less. Maybe it's because our lives do get busier with time, but I'm really happy that I have done or implemented all of these 10 things that I have shared with you. There's definitely more to be done. It's always a work in progress. Please, please, please share in the comments below things or tips that helped you simplify your life and that now there's less to manage, there's less to organize, and overall it improved quality of your life. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.